Hi grade 9s, this is going to be the answer key and tutorial session for the Unit 2 practice exam. As always, I recommend that you complete this exam on your own prior to watching this video and try to identify areas that you have strengths in and areas that you might need a little improvement and adjust your study habits accordingly for the unit exam. This is just the short answer portion of the unit exam. There are also some multiple choice questions, but they all deal with the exact same concepts that I'm going to do on this short answer part. So I'm going to go through it relatively quickly, but I am also going to try to explain my thought process as I go through, and hopefully that helps you when you're studying. For this chart, complete the table. We've got powers, bases, exponents, and repeated multiplication, and then the standard form of a number. So if I have a power that's 2 to the power of 5, the base is 2, the exponent is 5, the repeated multiplication is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, that's 5 times, and then the standard form is just the final answer. So it's 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 more is 32. This one, negative 3 to the power of 4, our base is negative 3, don't forget the brackets, our exponent is 4, and then what this means in repeated multiplication is it's negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 4 times. So because the exponent is even, our answer is going to be positive. I always check that first. So 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 more is 81. I didn't worry about the negative signs because I knew the answer was going to be positive. This one, the base is negative 2, which means that the entire negative 2 needs to go in brackets, and then the exponent is 3. That's very important because if the negative is not part of the brackets, then the base isn't really negative 2. So if we go to our repeated multiplication here, we've got negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, 3 times. 3 times. So because this is an odd exponent, I know my answer is going to be negative. I'm going to write it there right away. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So the answer of this one is actually negative 8. And for our last one, tricky again. We've got a negative outside the brackets. So that means that this negative has to be outside the brackets over here. So negative, and then obviously the base is 2, and the power is how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the base is 2, not negative 2, right? The base is what's inside these brackets. The base is 2, and the exponent is, what did I say, 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when we evaluate this, don't touch the negative sign for now. Whatever our answer is, it's going to be negative because there's a negative out front. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32, times 2 more is 64. So that one's a little trickier just because you have to recognize the base is 2, not negative 2. And sorry, the power there would include the 6 as well. Write each power of a power. So we know that this is 2.5, and that means that we're going to have to multiply exponents, okay, as a single power, then evaluate it. So we got to do this in 2 steps here. Write it as a single power. Okay, so we're going to write it as a single power by using the base, which is 2. And a power of a power means we multiply exponents. So 2 times 3 is 6. So there it's written as a power of a power. There's written as a single power. And then we'll evaluate it. Well, 2 to the power of 6 is 64. The reason I know that, we just did it up here, 2 to the power of 6. Next one is negative 3 to the power of 2 to the power of 2. So let's write our base, negative 3, 2, to the power of 2, and then that to the power of 2. We're multiplying exponents. 2 times 2 is 4. Negative 3 to the power of 4, well, we actually did this one up here too. Negative 3 to the power of 4 is 81. So I guess that makes our math easy for those ones. Next question, write expression as a single power, again, and then evaluate it. Okay, so the exact same thing as above, just slightly different operations, because we've got multiplication and division on these ones. This was 2.4. So what we're going to do is we are either going to add or subtract the exponents. Okay, so for here, we've got multiplication, so that's going to be adding. For here, we've got division, that's going to be subtracting. Remember, we're just talking about the exponents, not the numbers. So let's write this as a single power. Okay, so that's 10 is our base. 8 plus 4 is 12. Okay, and then we've got to divide that by 10 to the power of 3. Okay, so this is 10 to the power of, now it's division, so it's subtraction. 12 minus 3 is 9. So the final answer there is 1 with 9 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I guess that's a billion, isn't it? All right, on to B. Same thing. Remember, we've got fractions. Fractions are just division, and whenever you see math in a fraction form, I always put the brackets around the numerator at the top and the denominator at the bottom. Just remind myself that you actually have to do those pieces of math first. So let's look at the top first. We've got -1 as our base, so I'll just write -1 as our base. And it's times, so that's going to be adding the exponents. 2 plus 6 is 8. Then on the bottom side, -1 is still our base. It's still multiplication, so I'm going to add the exponents. 3 plus 2 is 5. That's 8, and I've got 5. Good. Now, this is division. Fraction is division, so let's write -1, and then 8 minus 5 is to the power of 3. And -1 to the power of 3 is just -1, right? Odd number, okay? It's going to be a negative. And, well, sorry, it has to have a negative in here, obviously, but a negative number and then an odd exponent means the answer is going to be negative. 1 to the power of 3 is just 1, so your final answer there is 1. Evaluate each power means take it down to standard form. Okay, now this one they're just trying to trick you. It's trying to trick you with negative signs and brackets. So as long as you remember that your power, your exponent, only applies to what it's touching on the left, you should be okay. So this one, the 2 is just touching the 3. It's not touching the negative sign. It's not touching a bracket. So really what this one is -3 times 3, which is -9. Next one, there's brackets, but the 2 isn't touching the brackets on the left. Okay, the 2 is inside the brackets with the -3. So it's actually the same thing. The brackets really don't do anything to this question. So it's still, even if you want to include the brackets here, it's negative. Okay, and then in more brackets, it's 3 times 3. So that's -9, which is still just -9. So make sure you look at where the brackets are. Now this one's a different one because it's got brackets and the negative is inside the brackets and the 2 is outside the brackets but touching the brackets. So in this case, the exponent 2 touches the bracket, which means it applies to everything inside the brackets. So in this case, it's -3 times itself, okay, which is going to be a +9. So that was just sort of trickery involving brackets and where the exponent is and where the negative sign is. So just be super careful with those on the exam. And don't let it trip you up. All right, number 8, evaluate expressions. Obviously show your work. So evaluate means take it all the way down. Don't confuse yourself. BEDMAS all the way. Okay? Brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, subtract. Left to right. So we've got brackets and exponent. Let's just do the bracket first. All right, -14 plus 12 is -2, and that's the power of 3 plus 11. -2 to the power of 3 is -8, okay, plus 11. Sorry, -8 plus 11. So your final answer is +3. Over here, there are some brackets. There's some division. So let's just work it out here. I'm just going to leave the 12 divided by -2 for a second. Plus brackets, 3 times 2 to the power of 3. So that's 6 inside the brackets, 3 times 2 to the power of 3. Okay. Now, you could do both of these kind of at the same time, just as long as you don't do the addition first. So 12 divided by -2 is -6 plus 6 to the power of 3. Okay, 6 to the power of 3 is, I think it's 216, but I have to check that calculator. Yeah, 216. Okay, so great. So this is 216. -6 plus +216. Final answer is 10. You can hear my dog howling in the background. Okey-doke. C. Same thing. BEDMAS. Brackets, 10 minus 12. Well, that's -2 again, to the power of 5, divided by -2. Now, this one, we can simplify really easily because the base is -2 and the base is -2. If you don't see an exponent up here, well, -2 to the power of 1, it's the exact same thing as -2. So you really do have an exponent, you just usually don't show it. So in this case, we're dividing, and we've got the same base, so we can just subtract. So it's -2, subtract the exponents, 5 minus 1 is 4. And then this is an even number exponent, which means that the answer is going to be positive regardless. All right, so it's going to be a positive Okay, 2 to the power of 4 is 16. Should be writing equals on all these. I got a little lazy. All right, last one. And I can't even see what that power is because I circled it. Okay, this one was 210. Okay, now negative 40 minus, and then in brackets we've got 8 minus 5. Well, 8 minus 5 is 3 to the power of 3. So this is negative 40 minus 3 to the power of 3 is 27. Now, questions like this, just keep in mind your number line. Sometimes this trips people up, even though they know it. They just make mistakes. So let's just think of the number line. You've got 0 here, and these are positives, and these are negatives. Okay? If you're starting at negative 40, you're already starting on the negative side, and you have to go more negative because you're subtracting more. So you got to keep going more negative, which means your number is going to be an even bigger negative number. So negative 40 minus 27, okay, has to be lower down or further to the left on the number line. Okay, so that's really negative 67. Okay, so try not to make a silly mistake on that. Remember your number line. All right, E, looks like we have some addition here, but we've got division, multiplication, and we've got negative 2 as a base for everything, so that should make our life a little easier. I do have 1, negative 2 to the power of 0, so I'm just going to cross that out and write 1, so I can save myself the time here. I also have a negative 2 with no power, but that can just be power of 1. So let's just start at the front here. Let's move left to right. Negative 2 to the power of 3 minus divided by negative 2 to the power of 2, so our base is negative 2. Division means we subtract the exponent, so 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay, times 1, that's easy. Plus negative 2 to the power of 2 divided by negative 2 to the power of 1, so that's going to be negative 2. Once again, we're dividing, so we subtract. 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay, this is going to be pretty simple. Negative 2 to the power of 1 is just negative 2 times 1. Probably should have written that as a dot. Plus negative 2 to the power of 1 is negative 2. So negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, plus another negative 2. Okay, we're starting on the negative side, and then we're adding more negatives to it. So if we're going further negative, the number is going to be higher. So it's negative 4. Negative 4. Hey, further on down, simplify, then evaluate each expression. It means we're going to take it all the way down to our standard number, just like we have been doing above. See if you can make your life easier. Look for 0 exponents. There's 1. Okay, the 0 is touching this big set of brackets, so this whole thing cancels out to be 1. That make our life a little easier. On the inside of this brackets, you've got negative 2 to the power of 0, so that's just 1. Just 1 as well. And 1 to the power of 3 is just 1, so I can actually get rid of that too. And then this one I can't really do anything about. Okay, so let's work here from left to right. Now that I've made my life a little easier, we've got negative 2 to the power of 4 to the power of 1. So when we've got a power to a power, we multiply those powers. 4 times 1 is 4. Times 1, that's easy, minus 1. That's also easy. So now we've got to do the exponent here. Negative 2 to the power of 4, it's going to be positive. So that's positive 2, 4, 8, 16. Times 1 minus 1. Equals 16 times 1 is 16, minus 1 is 15. Okay, I just want to quick unerase what I did here because I want to make sure that I didn't make a mistake when I canceled those. Just to be sure, double check. You should always double check your answers. After I'm done, making this video, I'll go back and double check, and hopefully I didn't make a mistake. So it doesn't matter what's inside this bracket. That is just going to be 1, so I think I was okay there. And this chunk here was 1 inside those brackets, and then 1 to the 3 is 1, so that should be fine. Negative 2 to the power of 4 to the power of 1, so it's 4 times 1 is 4. Negative 2 to the power of 4 is 16. Times 1, have to do that before the subtraction. 16 times 1 is 16, minus 1 is 15. Okay, so I double checked it and it looks like it's right, just to be sure. Next, okay, is there anything we can do to make our life easier here? Not really. I don't see any 0 exponents. I do notice that there's a negative 1, negative 1, negative 1. So I could probably use that at some point to make things a little simpler. But until then, let's just work from left to right. And brackets first. So brackets here. We've got negative 4 squared times negative 1, and that's all to the power of 2. Let's just do what's inside the brackets first and worry about the power of 2 later. So what we've got is Negative 4 to the power of 2 is 16. 16 times negative 1 is negative 16. And don't forget, that's all to the power of 2 still. Because all this stuff was just what was in the brackets. Next off, I'm just gonna... yeah, I might as well do this while I'm going across here. Okay, so this is negative 2 to the power of 2 to the power of 2. So I'll write plus, because it's plus, negative 2. Now, when we're doing an exponent of an exponent, we know that multiplies, right? So 2 times 2 is 4, then it's minus, and then we've got more brackets here, so I got to do this stuff in the brackets as well. Same base on this one, same base. So the base is negative 1. I might as well write negative 1. I'll just write a bigger bracket there, so negative 1. And then that negative 1 to the power of 8 divided by negative 1 to the power of 7, we subtract the exponents. 8 minus 7 is 1. And then that whole thing is to the power of 3. All right, let's just keep working left to right. We don't have any similar bases here. We've got 16 and negative 16, negative 2, and negative 1. So I can't really do anything else with single powers. So let's just start cranking it out. Negative 16 to the power of 2. Well, it's going to be a positive answer. And 16 squared is 256. Pen's getting squirrely on me again. Awesome. Okay, so that's right. That was 250. Ugh. So it was 250. Sometimes the technology just doesn't work. 256, there we go, plus we've got negative 2 to the power of 4. Well, it's power of 4, so it's going to be positive because that's an even number. So 2 to the power of 4 is 16. And then subtract, and we've got a bunch of negatives here, so let's just be careful. Let's work from the inside out here. Negative 1 to the power of 1 is just negative 1, okay? Negative 1 to the power of 3 is still negative 1. So we've got minus, and then in here, negative 1. So when you got two minuses back to back like that, that's really just a plus. I'll make those both plus. So 256 plus 16 plus 1. 256 plus 16 is 272 plus 1 is 273 is your final answer there. Okay, not so bad if you just, work within the brackets and then left to right, multiplication, just don't forget your bedmass. Right following is powers of 10. Okay, now most people are actually pretty good at this on the quiz, but I'm just going to set it up in a way that I hope you use for the exam because I think it's a lot easier. So just start with the leftmost number, and that in this case that's an 8, and then however many places there are, put that many zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, next go to the next number. It's a 4, and it's right behind the 8, so you put it right here, and then there should be 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers behind that. The 5 is right here. 1, 2, 3. Now, there's 0, 0, and then 2. So I'm just going to skip the 0, 0 because I don't need them and go all the way to 2. Now, make sure you put the 2 in the right spot, right? Because if you put it over here, that means 200. That means 20. This means 2. So this is the way I recommend you kind of start out. And then you convert these to the powers of 10. So this is 8 times 10 to the power of however many zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? This is 4 times 10 to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 5 times 10 to the power of 3. And this is 2. This is something that a lot of people got wrong on the quiz. It's not just 2, and it's not 2 times 1. It's 2 times 10 to the power of 0. Because remember, we're writing them as powers of 10. So all of these have to be 10. And 10 to the power of 0 is 1 anyway. Then you just take this in your final answer down here and just write it out with plus signs because it's always adding them together. 8 times 10 to the power of 5 plus 4 times 10 to the power of 4 plus 5 times 10 to the power of 3 plus 2 times 10 to the power of 0. And that's your final answer. Okay, let's do the exact same thing with the next number, which is actually probably even a little easier here. So we start with 8. How many places? 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay. Then 0, 0. So I'm going to skip 0, 0. And then in the tens place, we've got 3. And then in the ones place, we've got 2. Okay. So once again, let's just do 8 times 10 to the power of 4 zeros. Okay. 3 times 10 to the power of 1 0. And 2 times 10 to the power with 0 zeros. Get your final answer. Okay. You've already got it. You just need to write it out in a slightly different way. 10 to the power of 4. Don't forget the plus, right? This is 3 times 10 to the power of 1 plus 2 times 10 to the power of 0. And it's just, it's just the same math that you were doing probably in grade 3 or 4, where you're taking the tens place, or the ones place, the tens place, the hundreds place, right? This just happens to be the 80,000th place, right? So this would be, 80,000 plus 3 times 10 is 30, plus 2 times 10, or 2 times 1 is 2. 80,000 plus 30 plus 2 is 80,000 and 32. So we just went backward and forward. I'm just going to erase that just so you don't think that that's the final answer. That was just me checking. Your final answers are these ones. Okay, I think that's it for practice exam 2. If you understand all those concepts and you're willing to take your time, go slow, I think you'll be okay for the exam. If anything I did there is a little bit fuzzy, it doesn't make sense, please email us, and hopefully we can give you some feedback before the exam. Best of luck.